Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our church. Amen. Good morning, honorable members. Welcome to our morning session this Tuesday, 25th April of 2023, the year of our Lord. Honorable members, I'm meant to understand that there's a team going to visiting multinationals, but I'll request that you hold brief a bit as we dispense with this morning business, which is very urgent and important. Clerk, order of the day, business.
Order number 1, administration of oath.
Next.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I have one communication to make. This is in reference to submission of Kericho County Supplementary Number 2 budget estimates for the financial year 2022-2023. Honorable members, this is pursuant to, of course, Public Financial Management Act, Section 135, Subsection 2 of 2012, and this is committed to the Committee on Budget and Appropriation, led by the Honorable Chairman, the Honorable Albert Kipkoech. Is he here? The Vice Chair? Honorable Rogon, this is a very important document, and because of the deadline, I'm requesting that and direct at the same time that you dispense with this matter within the next 7 days. Therefore, this report should be tabled on Tuesday. That is on which date, Clerk? On 4th May 2023. Please note that deadline, and we expect that you engage from today. Is that in order, the Honorable one? You need to confirm to this House. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can confirm that because of also the urgency with regards to the welfare of our members, we can dispense of this within the 7 days, not 14 days. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Borogony. I think, correction, that will be on 3rd May 2023 and not 4th. That is Wednesday, Wednesday next week. Thank you for that. Clerk, next order.
Number 3, messages.
Next.
Order number 4, petitions.
Next.
Order number 5, papers.
Next.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable members, we've got 2 notices of motion. One by the Honorable Gladys Chesang. Please give notice of your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity that you've given me to give a notice of motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That aware that Article 209(3) and 4 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 gives authority to counties to impose taxes and other revenue-raising powers on property rates and entertainment taxes. Mr. Speaker, further aware that Part 2 of the 4th Schedule of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 provides for the functions and powers of the county. Noting that the Kericho County Finance Act 2022 gives the county a legal mandate to collect taxes from additional revenue streams within its jurisdiction. Mr. Speaker, acknowledging the Kericho County has a potential of generating higher local revenues from property rates, entertainment tax, single business permits, parking fees, produce cess, and market fees. Mr. Speaker, sir, aware that the Kericho Municipal Board and Litein Municipal Board are now in place and their functions are well stipulated in the Urban Areas and Cities Act Section 20M. Mr. Speaker, noting that the county lacks integration of the single business permits with other relevant revenue functions that hinder the creation of an effective single window system. Mr. Speaker, sir, also noting that the county lacks coordination among relevant departments, i.e. the Department of Lands, Housing and Physical Planning, and the Revenue Collection Section. Concerned that revenue in Kericho County has not been collected for the past 2 weeks. I urge this Honorable House to resolve that the County Executive Committee member in charge of Finance and Economic Planning, in conjunction with the Lands, Housing, Physical Planning and Settlements and Municipal Boards, 1, develop an integrated system which harness all revenue collected in the county. 2, enforce the current existing laws and regulations on revenue collection. 3, to come up with policies to govern the collection of land rates. Mr. Speaker, sir, number 4, introduce comprehensive monitoring and evaluation system for each revenue source. Number 5, set revenue targets for every market within Kericho County. And number 6, to develop a system that identifies revenue collected from every revenue stream in Kericho County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, the Honorable Gladys Bates, for your notice on motion. This motion shall be moved and, of course, be dispensed with tomorrow morning at 9:30. Next notice of motion by Honorable Borogwan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to give a notice of motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move the following motion concerning the Health Services Department. Aware that health services is one of the devolved functions as stipulated in the 4th schedule, Part 2 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution on Economic and Social Rights guarantees that every person has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, which includes the right to health care services, including reproductive health care. Further, aware that the Health Services Department takes a lion's share of the county shareable revenue in each financial year since inception of the counties, because of its central importance in our lives. Also further aware that both the national and the county governments have invested heavily in infrastructure of level 5, level 4, level 3, level 2, and level 1 health facilities. Noting that this House approved the Kericho County Health Services Act and Public Finance Management County Health Facilities Regulations to support operationalization, including hiring of personnel and supporting health management committees at the various levels of health facilities in the county, concerned that there are no adequate personnel in some health facilities in the county to deliver health services to the residents of the county, and that some of the health personnel have been on contractual terms for the last 6 years now, thus affecting their morale and consequently poor service delivery. Further concerned that the residents of the county continue to seek medical services and that personnel are not adequate despite the infrastructural development and equipment installed in the various health facilities. I therefore urge this House to resolve the following. A, that the CCM in charge of health services in conjunction with the County Public Service Board and the Public Service Management Department conduct staff audit in all health facilities and submit a report to the County Assembly within 14 days of the approval of this report. B, that the CCM health services request for additional personnel in health facilities that are understaffed on contractual terms to improve the efficiency as they help in bridging the gap that exists in health services and delivery. And C, that the County Public Service Board and the CCM in charge of public service management work on modalities of confirmation of nurses who have worked on contractual terms for the last 6 years in the financial year 2023-2024. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Thank you very much, the Honorable Baragon, for giving your notice of motion. Again, the motion to be moved tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. as per our standing order number 64. Clerk, next.
Order number 7, statements.
Honorable members, we have one statement by the Honorable Moses Rotich. Please table your statement.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to seek a statement regarding to pursuant to Section 9 of the County Government Act 2012 and Kericho County Assembly Standing Orders number 48-1. I wish to seek a statement from the Committee on Environment, Energy, Forestry and Natural Resources regarding the following matters in Kipkelion East Sub-County. Number 1, Mr. Speaker, the number of beneficiary sawmillers, both locally and externally, the number of licensed sawmillers, Mr. Speaker, the number of trees to be logged by sawmiller, both from the local and from the external source, Mr. Speaker, the number of revenue streams from this matter, the total revenue to be collected from the said sawmillers, the percentage of the said revenue collected that will go towards maintaining the roads in, within the sub-county, the strategy or a plan for reforestation, the corporate social responsibilities activities to be done by the sawmillers within the sub-county, and the total percentage stroke ratio for logging of trees between the local versus the external sawmillers. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Mrs. Rotich, for raising your statement. Honorable members and the Honorable Dr. Moses Rotich, I hope and believe that you are aware that the statement that you have raised and asked the committee, before I commit it to Committee on Environment, Energy, Forest and Natural Resources, I would like to make a comment and observation on the same. Number 1, of course, the Schedule 4 of our Constitution, as you are aware, gives functions for both national and county governments. Of course, I expect that this committee, maybe jointly with the executive, will have to engage the national institutions dealing with these matters that have been raised. I think that is very, very important to note, because honestly, you may not get a report from the executive unless you involve the executive and seek the information from where it is due. Honorable members, maybe I want to give a few.
To give my opinion on the said statement. The statement is very good. it is important to the county in terms of revenue, because the functions which are in Schedule 4 are very clear. But at the same time, there is a section of the Constitution that says the national and the county government can work together and consult. So I think we can invoke that so that the honorable member gets the right information. So that there's a section that says that the national government and the county government can work together. So the member is right, especially on also revenue. Mr. Speaker, sir, the roads that are being used are under the county. The said materials that are to be removed from the forest will be using our roads. So they should give the county a program on how those roads can be maintained, because we cannot be maintaining roads under the county and at the same time. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I think this is a more clearer one. Mr. Speaker, sir, so there is no way we can be maintaining roads, or the county can be maintaining roads, while the materials that are being removed in the forest or in the areas that are within our jurisdiction affects the road. So we should have a program from Kenya Forest Service on how those roads can be maintained. We also need to know that how much revenue is the county getting from these materials, because we know very well that our revenue targets have been very low. We've not been meeting our targets. So with the recent moratorium being lifted, I know the county will get more revenue from these materials that are within our jurisdiction. So I support the raising of the statement, but I know very well that we cooperate. The national government and the county government will cooperate. So the statement is in order. We should get all that information, because we are one government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Thank you very much, the Honorable Paul Chirchir. The Honorable Vincent Korir, and then I'll give to Honorable Chiri Albert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to contribute on the statement raised by my colleague, Honorable Moses Rotich. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a very important statement, especially touching on the resources that are within our county. Forests is a very important resource, and actually the value of forest products is high. And since the Constitution has said maybe resources are controlled by the national government, but you see, within our county and within the localities of our county, it is very important to know and understand how we benefit as the county. Again, you see, in terms of the roads that are being used by the loggers to ferry the logs. Actually, I come from where the resources are. And we see every year when the logging is being done, a lot of lorries, so many lorries are carrying logs around the area. And it damages a lot of roads. It damages the roads around. Mr. Speaker, sir, what I can say is this. We should be able to engage and discuss with the national government, especially within the boundaries, those forests that are located within the boundaries of Kericho County, so that we engage and say how we are going to generate revenue by ensuring that our county officers are able to identify. For example, where I come from, if you look at a place called Dr. Koech, where the forests are located, normally the acreage within that area has thousands and thousands of logs. So if we can be able to engage and see how we can benefit, because when the forests are being planted, actually those people who are planting the forest are people within the area. And when the forest need people to and labor to plant, the people around here, around those areas are called upon to come and plant. But when it is being harvested, they are not called to come and harvest. So this is a very important discussion that we should support and engage so that we can have a meaningful discussion on how we are going to benefit from the resources and also from the logging. Because when the foresters are giving out their plans on how to allocate resources, they say 70% are going to get the first priority. But in the real sense, if you go to books and records, you will not find the 70%. It is just in talk and not in paper and in practical. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I support.
All right. Thank you very much, the Honorable Vincent Korir. The Honorable Cheriot Bet, and then I'll give to Honorable Eric B.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also represent the people of Ainamoi, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honorable member representing the great people of Tendeno Soget for raising this very eminent statement. Mr. Speaker, one, he has all the rights to raise this statement because he represents the people of Tendeno Soget, where where that forest is domiciled, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and the reason why we also have a committee in charge of forestry, Mr. Speaker, and environment is also so that they will deal with this issue, Mr. Speaker. And I remember in 2014, a similar statement was raised by the members from those places, Mr. Speaker, and I think we discussed it here, Mr. Speaker, and somehow there were solutions, Mr. Speaker. Maybe the only solution that we knew is that the members representing the Kipkelion East were called for a meeting, Mr. Speaker, but up to today, we've never known what happened, Mr. Speaker, but they were satisfied, Mr. Speaker. So I know this time round, when the members from those places are called, they will furnish the county assembly with whatever information that they are being given by those people, Mr. Speaker. But otherwise, these are very good statements, Mr. Speaker, because there is a resource that belongs to the people of Kericho, Mr. Speaker, and we must participate in the management of such resources, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the statement has raised very important issues. One, Mr. Speaker, is the beneficiary. Who are these Omilas, Mr. Speaker? You know, the resource belongs to us, but sometimes the Omilas are drawn from even outside the country, Mr. Speaker. So I think the department has no option, Mr. Speaker. They need to furnish the committee, Mr. Speaker, one, on the beneficiaries. We want to know who are these Omilas from this Kericho County, Mr. Speaker. Second, Mr. Speaker, who are the beneficiaries from especially where these resources domicile, the Kipkelion East, Mr. Speaker. So I think the department, Mr. Speaker, has to respond. They will liaise, Mr. Speaker. What are the corporate social responsibilities that these resources given to the people, not only of Kipkelion East, Mr. Speaker, but the people of the entire county, Mr. Speaker. So we need to know what the forestry has done to our people, Mr. Speaker. What is this? What are the amount of money that are going to give to the Kericho County government, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, so it's a good statement, Mr. Speaker, that I know is going to assist us, Mr. Speaker. The honorable member representing the people of Kapso, Mr. Speaker, I remember in that time, he was very passionate, Mr. Speaker, about this resource. By then, Mr. Speaker, he was not an MCA, so he was very active outside there. In fact, I remember meeting Mr. Speaker, he was telling me, you need to raise that statement at the county assembly, Mr. Speaker. But later on, Mr. Speaker, he was a very happy man, and he used that forest to get election in 2017. So, Mr. Speaker, and finally, Mr. Speaker, this, Mr. Speaker, I want to comment on the honorable member. This is a statement that, in essence, because it is not devolved, in essence, it should have been raised by the member of parliament representing Kipkelion East, Mr. Speaker. But because sometimes some of these MCAs are very sharp, Mr. Speaker, compared with the area member of parliament, Mr. Speaker, I know the honorable member for Kipkelion East will also pick this statement from here. I know he's a sharp person, and maybe he is going to read the proceeding, and he will pick this statement and seek the statement from now the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, and that is where they will even get more answers than here, Mr. Speaker. So it is a reminder to our members of Parliament, also, Mr. Speaker, when we seek statement that touches on the national government function, Mr. Speaker, then that raises a lot of eyebrows on whether some of these people, Mr. Speaker, knows what they are doing, Mr. Speaker. So this is a good statement, and we are waiting for the response. And I know we should also we know we are the major stakeholders in this county. So whatever there is a resource that the national government wants to exploit, Mr. Speaker, we need to take part in the exploitation of those resources, because we represent the people at the grassroots level. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, the Honorable Cheriot Bit. Honorable Eric B.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity you've given unto me. Just to make my comments on the statement raised by Honorable Moses Rotich. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this is a very good statement, and I'll make two suggestions, Mr. Speaker. One, we've heard that the permits and the license for sawmillers has been put in place, Mr. Speaker. And I want to suggest that since this is a national function, when it comes to the applications of these licenses directed to the Kenya Forest Service, Mr. Speaker, what we can say about this statement, Mr. Speaker, is for us to put some policies, so that since it's a national government functions and the county government function, Mr. Speaker, as honorable members, we can discuss on how we can incorporate ourselves with the Kenya Forest Service, Mr. Speaker, by putting in place policies so that we cannot bring conflict between the national and the county government, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to the application of the permits, they normally apply under Section 35 of National Government Act. They normally apply to the Kenya Forest Service. So if we want to know the beneficiaries, Mr. Speaker, I think it's good for us to ensure that we have policies in place, so that when you are going to tackle with this statement, we shall not be replicating the function of the national government. And by and large, Mr. Speaker, we can also invite the members of this committee, Mr. Speaker. They can go direct to the Kenya Forest Service and seek these clarifications for the beneficiaries, so that they give us. And I think, Mr. Speaker, it's a good statement, and I want to agree with you. As you say, it's a national function. We cannot object the national function. Where we come in place, Mr. Speaker, is when you come to the revenue generation. As my honorable members have said, that we also collect revenue from sawmillers, especially when we are giving license. This is our part, whereby we shall come in place by ensuring that anybody who is a beneficiary from this milling, Mr. Speaker, they should get a license from our county, Mr. Speaker, so that as they operate, they should be able to generate revenue within our county. Also, in maintenance of our roads, you see, it's a care of work, Mr. Speaker. And what we can also put in place is ensure we have a policy in place, so that we can approve as they do their work in national government. We also do our work, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, I support the statement is good, and we are waiting from the committee on forest, Mr. Speaker, to give us a recommendation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Majority. Philip Rono.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the opportunity. I have also rose, Mr. Speaker, to support my colleague, Honorable Moses, on his statement, Mr. Speaker, that it is actually a valid statement, Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that actually the forest is not fully devolved, Mr. Speaker. But you see, we have the same committee on forest, Mr. Speaker, which I have the opportunity to have served in the same committee when it used to be one, Mr. Speaker, when we used to have a committee on water, environment, forestry, natural resources, and sanitation, Mr. Speaker. And I remember we one day visited the same forest in Londiani, Mr. Speaker, and we had done a lot of recommendations, Mr. Speaker, that we even needed to erect the barriers, Mr. Speaker, to enable us collect the revenue from those sawmillers or from those people taking the logs, Mr. Speaker, from the forest. From what the Honorable Jeriot Peter said, Mr. Speaker, that had brought attention to us, Mr. Speaker. These people used to pay to ferry the logs using tractors and heavy machineries, Mr. Speaker. So you could find a road that has been maintained by the county government, Mr. Speaker, being used by the same people, so millers, carrying their own logs, and at the end of the process, Mr. Speaker, they used not to pay even a single shilling to the county government, Mr. Speaker. So I think the Committee on Finance, led by the Chairman for Finance, Mr. Speaker, should work jointly with the Committee on Environment and Forestry, Mr. Speaker, so that we quantify. We say if one trailer of a tractor, how much should they be paying as a revenue to the county? That is number one. We erect the barriers, Mr. Speaker, and we install somebody there, so that we will be getting revenue from the same. And we agree, they developed an agreement between, now we know there is an office of the forestry there. They developed an agreement, or now they will be maintaining the roads, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I come also from an area that is covered by the same forest, Mr. Speaker. And we've been taking care of the forest all through, Mr. Speaker. And when it comes to the time of harvesting the same trees, Mr. Speaker, the locals are not considered. So I think such statement, Mr. Speaker, is good enough to bring those people into a negotiating table, Mr. Speaker, for our people also to benefit. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Thank you, the Honorable Majority. I'll give to the last speakers on this statement, the Honorable Ogony, and then I'll finally give to the Honorable Dr. Moses Urist, and then we can conclude. Honorable Ogony.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the member for raising this statement. And Mr. Speaker, this statement has made me to actually even look at the Constitution, specifically on the 4th schedule. Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate that even from the inception of the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, it looks the national government has not really let go of some of the functions that are meant to be undertaken by the counties. Mr. Speaker, look at the 4th schedule. The national government has almost zero role matters forestry, that it is a squarely county function. Now, as a county government of Kericho, what are we implementing matters forestry if we have zero role even on matters of logging? I think the member has done very well to raise this, because if we follow this thinking, Mr. Speaker, this statement, it will yield to a motion that will compel the national government to ensure that the management of our forests in the Republic of Kenya be given to the various counties where forests touch on, the forests are within, those forests are within those counties. So, Mr. Speaker, in the 4th schedule, number 10 specifically, states very clearly what, and I can read to you, Mr. Speaker. Yes. Number 10 says, implementation of specific national government policies on natural resources and environmental conservation, including A, soil and water conservation, and B, forestry. If you go to the roles given to the national government, it has almost zero role on forests. So I support the member for raising this statement, and it will go a long way to giving us as a county government of Kericho every other role in managing that forest that touching on our county. So, Mr. Speaker, I support the member, and I urge the House to put in place every other legislation that will guarantee us to managing this resource, because it is what we need for us to get the much needed revenues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Rogony. I agree with you on the aspect of Schedule 4, that is function number 10 of the county government. And as you put it clearly, I think this is also a matter that touches on the Senate. And as a House, I encourage that, of course, we also perhaps ensure that all these functions that touches on county governments. I know there was a body called Transitional Authority. Later, it became intergovernmental body that deals with transfer of functions. And this is one function probably that has not been transferred to counties, and that is why we are having such challenges. However, let me finalize by giving Honorable Dr. Moses, and then I give the final direction. Thank you. A minute.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me this chance to come up again. Mr. Speaker, the matter that I've raised, Mr. Speaker, is of weighty concern. That, Mr. Speaker, for many years, we have been party to planting of trees. Mr. Speaker, we have been very party during the dry seasons. When there are fire episodes, Mr. Speaker, we are called in for rapid response to quell the fire menace in our forest, Mr. Speaker. Fourthly, Mr. Speaker, thirdly, Mr. Speaker, during the harvest season, Mr. Speaker, we have not been called to be party to the same. It is unfortunate, Mr. Speaker. Our standing orders, Mr. Speaker, on the second schedule on sectorial committees, that is the responsible committee on environment, energy, forestry, and natural resources. Maybe, Mr. Speaker, before you commit this, allow me to read this part of the second schedule, that all matters related to implementation of specific county government policies on natural resources and environmental conservation, including soil, water, and forestry. Mr. Speaker, we have a role, we have a mandate that is quite divined, Mr. Speaker, as a county government on the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Thank you very much, the Honorable Dr. Moses. Honorable members, based on that, this statement stands committed to the Committee on Environment, Energy, Forestry, and Natural Resources. And the Honorable Chairperson, Environment, is he or she in the House? That is the Honorable who? And the Vice Chair? Yes, the Honorable Gikonyo. This report to be, of course, tabled to the House in the next 14 days. I think that is in order.
That is in order, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you very much. Please note that and be advised accordingly. Honorable members, there being no any other agenda, this House now stands adjourned until this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.